the soil mix that you need to start seeds, and once those seeds start,
you can save your plants, and a plant that is an heirloom or open pollinated will be able to give you pretty much the same plant if you save that seed and use it the next year.
Whatever you should be thinking at this time of the year.
Especially with tomatoes, cucumbers, things like that.
2 or 3 things very common: some kind of a pepper, some kind of cucumber, some kind of tomato. Until last year in the United States, we could not buy GMO seed.
Interesting. Okay.
Previously, only a big farmer, because
Yes.
there are multiple requirements around it,
Yep.
fertilizer and other things, could buy. So we are getting in that, which I personally find dangerous, because I'm very against GMOs.
Yes.
Nature, it becomes a bit difficult to control. Yes, there are companies who do it. What are you seeing for 2025? Any new trends? Any new varieties?
I think one continuing trend is containers.
Oh, mere bhai.
This is the second part of a discussion that we started last week, that we are at the dead of the winter, end of January. Really, by the time you see this video, it'll be the first week of February. And what we're discussing, that if you live in a cold region, in our case 7A, Northeast United States, where snow is still outside, what you should be preparing for. So in our last video, we discussed about how to keep your seeds, buying your seeds, the soil mix that you need to start seeds, and once those seeds start, how to transplant them, the seedlings, and then what to do with them for hardening them, and then prepare for the season. We will continue that conversation today, and we have the privilege of Bob with us, and we will pick his brain on some of the subjects which are related, whatever you should be thinking at this time of the year. Hello, Bob.
Hello, everybody. It's good to see you all again. Thank you for this opportunity.
So, Bob, one thing which confuses people, heirloom versus hybrid seeds. Okay. What's the difference?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, you all have hopefully your seed catalog now, and you want to go through it, and you'll see, especially with tomatoes, cucumbers, things like that, things marked hybrid or heirloom. Hybrid is plants that have been chosen for productivity, for disease control by breeding. Where heirloom is also known as open pollinated. They've been handed down over years, or they actually, if you're one who saves your plants, you can save your plants, and a plant that is an heirloom or open pollinated will be able to give you pretty much the same plant if you save that seed and use it the next year. Where a hybrid, because of the breeding involved, you probably won't get the same plant. You may get something close, it may still be good, but it may not have the disease resistance or the productivity. And that's one of the big differences, the big choices in using your hybrids. Your hybrids will usually be much more disease resistant. They may be more productive. They may have some more insect resistance. Some of the nematodes, things like that, with different squashes, are a big plus. Where your heirlooms, one big plus with the heirlooms is they've been handed down, some of them for years. Some of them have a much better flavor. Some of them are just good producers on their own, and they've proven themselves. You may have to look for some of your heirlooms. There's some companies that specialize in them. Baker Seed, I think, specializes in a lot of heirloom. And there's a lot of interesting stuff that you can find in these heirlooms. Some of the squashes and stuff that have been handed down, cucumbers, tomatoes, there's some great stuff.
So, Bob, if that's the case, if I'm growing a tomato, which is heirloom, and next to it I'm growing a hybrid, won't the heirloom become a hybrid, technically speaking? Because
no, usually not the chance. Usually the seed stays pretty true, I guess, because it's, usually that won't happen as much.
Most people in their gardens grow two or three things very common: some kind of a pepper, some kind of cucumber, some kind of tomato, like a standard gardener in the backyard garden. At least they do at least that. When it comes to cucumbers and tomatoes seeds, What are the popular choices, and how do you go about it with, especially with tomatoes? There are so many choices now.
Choices are endless. And I would think two main things I would lump them into are tomatoes that grow as a bush versus more vining tomatoes. Because I'm growing more in containers now, I'm looking more for tomatoes that will grow in a bush, be a little bit more compact, versus a vining, which will usually need staking, a little bit more care, a little bit more room. Also with tomatoes, you'll have them from cherry tomatoes up to beefsteak tomatoes, nice large tomatoes. So there's a wide variety in those plants, whether you're growing in a container, you're growing in the ground. And cucumbers are pretty much same thing. You have bush cucumbers, you have standard cucumbers, which are going to run. You have pickling cucumbers, which will stay small, or your standard cucumbers, 7-8 inches and longer. You have burpless cucumbers, or seedless cucumbers. So there's a wide variety, and you can tailor that pretty much to your choice.
Now, with both cucumbers, because the reason I'm picking Bob's brain on cucumbers especially, I have, thanks because of Bob, over the years, grown many tomatoes which are different varieties, and I've been quite successful over the years. Last year, if you go and watch our videos for 2024, our experiment was different chili peppers, going from bell pepper all the way to the hottest, which is available in the market. And we showed you how we went about it. This year, we are about to, Bob, experiment with cucumbers. Tell us more about, like, in terms of light requirements, in terms of soil, what should I worry about?
Well, you want good light, just like you would want with the tomato or pepper, anything like that. The more light, the better germination, better growing you're going to have. The soil is very important. Too wet of a soil, your cucumbers are going to rot, and they're just going to suffer. So good soil, good light are probably the keys to that.
And when you talk about light, how many hours are we talking about over here? Sorry, let me ask you the question again. When you talk about light, is that direct sunlight or is it just light, natural light?
I would say more direct sunlight, or at least close to there could be other plants there, but not indirect light. I think you want that sun shining down, smiling on those plants.
And how many hours?
I would say 6 to 8, at least 6.
Okay, so we already talked about the two seed types. Now, there's this whole subject about organic.
Yes.
Until last year in the United States, we could not buy GMO seed as a backyard gardener. Something changed, and first GMO seed came to the market that you and I can buy now.
Interesting. Okay.
Previously, only a big farmer, because
Yes.
there are multiple requirements around it,
Yep.
fertilizer and other things, could buy. So we are getting in that, which I personally find dangerous, because I'm very against GMOs.
Yes.
Tell us about organic seeds.
Okay. Well, that's a little different than the GMO. Yeah, GMO I'm not happy with. I wouldn't look to it. Organic are usually seeds that have been growing in an organic matter with organic pesticides or no pesticides. I'm not a big one on organic seeds. I don't think they're worth the price difference. So that's just my personal opinion. Usually people will grow organics for a few different reasons. The plants may grow more robust, which I don't think is true. I think that gets back to the nature versus nurture, where you could start out with the same plant. As long as it has good control over the growing, it'll grow fine, whether doesn't matter what the seed was. Also, they think they feel there's less chance of pesticides in an organic grown seed, which is probably true, but in a regular seed, the chance of any pesticide being in there is so small, I don't think it warrants the price difference for an organic seed.
And one other thing which I'll mention, because I was big about growing organic seeds, but then I realized, and this is very unfortunate, that living in a suburban neighborhood as a backyard gardener, you can buy organic seeds and you can do everything you could to grow organic. Unfortunately, that does not happen. My neighbors, two sides, have these services which come and spray mosquito to repel mosquitoes. Actually, it not just repels, it also kills them. So those chemicals also flowing into my backyard garden. I'm not saying that I will start using inorganic material in my backyard, but for me to call my garden totally organic will be very untrue statement. I need to accept that fact. So what I started doing, and then why pay the extra $1? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But if you buy a seed which is non-GMO, because the problem is GMO. The problem is not because hybrid, technically speaking, is not an organic seed. Or am I wrong about it? Or it is?
No, hybrids do not have to be organic.
Right.
Hybrids actually, because of the breeding, I mean, that could be considered a genetically modified organism.
Exactly.
But that's not, when you see GM listed, that's not what they're looking at.
So the difference is the GMO really, yes, they do things in the lab. But the hybrid process, humans have been doing that for years and years now, where they cross things, which is, technically speaking, a bit unnatural.
Right.
Example would be broccoli. Broccoli, you could not find that in nature. It was selective growing that from the Brassica family, they kept on modifying, not genetically though, selective growth. And now we have broccoli. Broccoli is the cousin of a cauliflower, and it's very close to kale and some other brassicas. So I find that right. I do not find GMO correct. That said, organic, sure. If you want to do it, go ahead, do it. I would not say not to. I just want you to realize that what you're in for. I'm not trying to break anybody's heart. My heart was broken many years ago when I kept on trying to doing everything right, but then I realized that I can't. So there are some limitations. Yes, if you have farm, even on farms, the problem which happens is you have to make sure that the farms around you are not using chemicals, because if they are, even if you're growing organic, you're not.
No, it's scary, because even something like weed killers, if you're using a weed killer, if your neighbor's using a weed killer during the summer and it's very hot, humid, sometimes like the 2,4-D, the chemicals in there can vaporize and drift. And if it's hot and humid, it'll stay close to the ground, and they can affect your plants. I've seen that happen plenty of times. Some things like tomatoes are very susceptible. So even though you started out with an organic seed, by the time you get your fruit, it's not really organic anymore.
And again, not discouraging anyone, but we live in an environment. Forget about somebody using anything. All of us drive cars. Whatever comes out of the car, that's not organic, and that's in the atmosphere, and that does go back to our environment. So we have to be honest to ourselves that we will try to do our best, but we can never say or promise anybody this is 100% organic.
One instance where organic may be better for someone if they're starting like microgreens inside. There you have better control. You might start it inside. You're using the seed at a very young age. So if there's anything in that seed that has to work out, you're not getting a chance to. Where if you had some seed from a non-organic source, putting it into the ground 6 weeks later, when you're picking stuff, anything that's in that plant is probably out of it, as far as the pesticide that might have been in there before.
For that matter, microgreens surely, but if you're doing indoor hydroponics,
again, you have a little bit more control.
You have control,
sure.
So doing inside your house, or if you're one of those lucky ones that you have a proper greenhouse, where you can control things. In our nature, it becomes a bit difficult to control. Yes, there are companies who do it, but they are doing on a level that you and I don't have that luxury.
Just to jump back on one thing, as far as the source of seeds and organic seeds, we haven't really touched on, there are different seed banks and things where people could get their seed. And these are usually heirloom varieties where people have saved seed and willing to share it. So you might find one locally, you might find it online. just another source to find some seeds.
And then it will also help sustainability and local resilience.
Yes.
When you do that, and it gives you a sense of community. And gardening is about community. Gardening is about friendship, because gardening, what do you do with gardening? You grow something and you eat, right? And in my eyes, food is the first gift a human being can give to another. So on the same logic, gardening falls under the same category. So do gardening as a community. And when you buy those many seeds, you buy seeds, everything will have at least 25 seeds. And if, let's say, 20 plants germinate of the same kind, do you have enough space in your backyard that you can grow that much? That's a question to be asked.
Well, one of the most rewarding things about gardening is the ability to share your seeds or your plants. And to me, that feeds your soul. So, I think it's a great thing, again, to build your community and work and share what you've learned and what you grow.
So something which I know, because I asked you almost end of December and you were already getting excited about spring and you had already started buying seeds.
Don't I look excited?
So you had already started buying seeds.
Yes, sir.
Now, I haven't started my seeds yet, so I haven't started doing my research yet. What are you seeing for 2025? Any new trends? Any new varieties?
I think one continuing trend is containers. And I think as gardening is still becoming more popular, especially in suburban areas, even urban areas, I've done more for container gardening, plants that are smaller, growing things potted, things like that. I know I have one cucumber that's meant to grow in a little container like that. So should be interesting. Maybe we could do a video later on in the future about some of the new varieties.
Because one thing I'm also thinking, my back garden, which I need to get some raised gardens built, has failed, and that's the place which gets the best sun.
Yes.
But because of weeds, I've been having a lot of issues. I'm thinking I might not grow any summer plants there. I'll use that whole area, which is a huge area, for winter squash, because they take a lot of space.
Okay.
And I will try to smother the weeds that way. Because I do have a lot of containers, so my thought is to use as much containers as possible. And worst case scenario, if I cannot fit them closer to the house, I can put those containers in that area to get the sun. And
it's protected from deer.
Yeah, and anybody who
as best we can
has been watching us, it has it's fenced like almost 6 feet. So, Bob, any parting words?
No, but it's interesting with the squash. I've seen some old heirloom varieties of squash that maybe we should look into for putting back there. Red Curie, I think, was one, Kuri. Again, the one seed company, Baker, has really specialized in some of that old stuff. And a lot of different eggplants, things like that are, again, heirloom, hand-me-down.
Thank you, everyone. This was the part 2 of our discussion with Bob. We did this 2-part series, and our intention was for people to get excited about summer and start planning whatever you have to buy. When you buy seeds, one piece of advice which I'll give you, and I know I myself don't follow, that I will go through one catalog or one website and I'll pick things and buy. Next week, I will see something else, I'll go buy. What you should do is make a list what you want to buy, and then accordingly keep on marking that what you have already bought. There was a year that I bought some, I think 85 different seed packets, which were different varieties and different kinds also. I don't have that much space. And was it a good decision, a bad decision? I do not know the answer, but don't try to make the same mistakes that I have already made. We try to teach or try to share our experience as much as we can. So I hope that we were able to show you or showcase you something that will be helpful for you, like and subscribe. Start the discussion down in the comments so we can start talking to each other. We pick each other's brain and learn from each other. And whenever we need, Bob is always here, at least whenever I ask. And whenever we need, we know that Bob is always here. He's very enthusiastic about gardening, and he's a wonderful friend, and he's always here to help. If I do not know answer to a question, we can always pick Bob's brain. Watch our series that we do, Ask Bob, which we call 1 Minute with Bob, where Bob answers one question. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.